Yeah, I got my social media job through social media actually.
You hired, join tomorrow.
Bonus time, just like make as much money as you can to enjoy the rest of the year.
Most places will not want to hire you.
You know what they say, desperate times call for.
Starting over in a new country with zero job leads.
From printing resumes at the library to walking mall to mall asking who's hiring.
Finding part time jobs as an international student was a hustle and a half.
On campus, off campus, underpaid or under the table. We've been there and done that.
And we're talking about all of it.
If you've been there or you're there, this one's for you.
This is Desperate Times. Welcome back to another episode of Desperate Times podcast. My name is Sakshi.
And I'm Varun.
And this week, we're going to talk about finding a part time job as an international student. As someone coming here, never done a part time job back home. So it was a whole new experience, finding one, sticking with it, liking
Yep.
it, and how we got there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think talking about us never doing a part-time job back at home, a big part of that is because the typical part-time jobs that you do off campus out here are looked at as like lower than, lesser than, menial. There are like all these different words that are thrown out there, which I feel is highly stigmatized in the country that we come from India. So that itself was like, I feel a mental barrier to break for people at home who are knowing that we're doing these jobs. Did you face something similar? Did you have to feel like you had to break that barrier?
I don't think it's just India though, like while we're talking about it, it's a lot of South Asian countries
That's true.
that thinking where it comes from, because it's about society and what people will think. But in the first place, I personally did not think about a part-time job because here I know in like the Western countries, parents encourage their kids to like start working early, do summer
Mm-hmm.
jobs, save up
Yep.
on pocket money. Whereas
Yep.
back home, you were into so many hobbies and classes and going out and vacationing that part-time job didn't even pop into my head, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever really a thing for us, neither culturally
Mm-hmm.
nor from a time perspective. And no one ever considered.
Yeah, exactly. And only after coming here, like you'd heard from friends and seen it like movies and stuff that you have to get a part-time job to be
Yep.
able to actually survive in the country, to be able to thrive in the country. And also, as someone who doesn't have any experience of working in this country, a part-time job can also add up to you getting a full-time job in the sense that you can say,
Oh, for
okay,
sure.
yes, I have seen how the market works and I understand the people, because you're coming from a completely different country. So having that part-time experience is not just to earn money but to gain some soft skills, some transferable skills for that full-time job eventually.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. For me in particular, I think I was pretty lucky to find my part-time job way before I even landed in the country. Maybe even a couple months before is when I had to start scouting for it because I was looking for something on campus. Hopefully, I wanted to kind of restrict myself to that zone. But what was your experience like? Did you land up like reaching here? Did you go about it a different way? What was yours like?
So I actually didn't know that the on-campus part-time jobs are listed way in advance and you have to apply for them like you
Mm-hmm.
did a couple of months ago, and then the
Yep.
decision is also made accordingly. So I had no idea, but I had classmates that said, "Oh yeah, the listing came out like back when," and that was when we were worrying about our visas and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like a priority because I'm like, okay, first I need to know if I'm actually getting in the country and studying in the place that I want to,
But I
and
feel
then
like
look for a
that
job.
that in fact is I feel like a common mistake that people make wherein they focus on
Yeah.
only one thing at a time and are just laser focused on getting it. Because I know of
Mm-hmm.
people, and my master's course was more of a thesis based course. There was a lot of research and all involved in there. So I am personally aware of people who actually sent out emails to professors for like research assistant and teachers assistant roles almost at the same time as filling in their application itself. So that is
Wow.
like almost a year before they can even begin to before they even set foot in the country altogether. So processes
Mm-hmm.
start pretty early and people are mostly unaware of stuff like that.
And that's the thing, right? Being laser focused on one thing doesn't help you, especially like when we spoke about in our last episode that we have to do so many things together once you come to a new country.
Yep.
It's the same thing once you start living on your own, especially for people like Varun and I who've not really had that experience back home.
Hmm.
Uh, you have to do everything all at once. So yes, it's good to focus on some things one at a time, but these things require you to have your hands in like everything and try to manage them together. And
Hmm.
that's where I guess you got lucky, right? You were keeping an
Yeah.
eye out on all these jobs and ended up getting it.
Yeah, I got my social media job through social media actually, because I found
Checks out.
I found this the university page that I eventually landed up work making content for. I found that they had this like student page and student life page for Concordia University, wherein they would actively keep posting for like people they were looking out for. And I saw a post out there being like, "Hey, we're looking for a new social media superstar," is how they kind of posted it as. And then from there on, it was pretty simple as a process. Just went ahead, clicked a few links. There was a requirement of me even like creating a video introducing myself, which I will say it took me like 3 days of production to do. I put in a lot of effort in creating that video for my application. And I think this was about like 2 months before I even got here. I didn't even have my visa confirmed at that point in time, but people are pretty, for things like that, people are pretty generous and helpful. You'd
Yeah,
be really surprised
yeah.
where they are completely okay to work around whatever bureaucratic processes you're in the middle of. They'll find a way to still
Hmm.
employ you if they're really interested in you.
Definitely. And while we're talking about like all these processes, like finding a job off campus is a completely different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Where for on campus jobs you have to keep an eye out months in advance. For off campus, it's almost like, okay, if you walk into a store that day and they're hiring and they like
Yeah.
you and they might be like, yeah, you're hired, join tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like processes are that quick for those kind of jobs. And I had to find a job. It took me a while to get a off campus job because all the on campus ones were already taken.
Mm-hmm.
And I went around a lot of places. I went to restaurants, I went to cafes, I went to retail
Uh,
stores, and some retail stores I even went to twice because it really matters who you hand your resume to, like we'd mentioned in the
Previous
last
episode.
episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that whole process also is very different again because when you're looking for off campus jobs, your availability, they ask you for your availability. It's a part-time
Mm-hmm.
job, right? So you decide what hours you want to give to them,
Yeah.
and your availability makes a lot of difference in terms of if you're getting hired or not, even if you're a good candidate.
And I think that also will then be dependent on your class schedule and the kind of time that you filled up based on your availability, as you mentioned. So there are a lot of people who will have to first
Exactly.
come in here, make sure that all their classes are registered for, understand their schedule,
Mm-hmm.
understand things like, okay, when is it going to be time for me to do my assignments? What are the other chores that
Yeah.
I have to do? And then kind of slot in time in between that to kind of
Mm-hmm.
figure out how they're going to work around
Yep.
their part-time
Yep.
job.
And a lot of these part-time jobs, they require weekend availabilities, closing
Mm-hmm.
availabilities. And if you have classes on the weekends, then essentially most places will not want to hire you just because they need people working for them, people on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, the first semester that I was here, my goal was, oh yeah, I'm here to study, so my first priority is
Is
the
to study.
classes I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking, the professors that are teaching me. And I was very nitpicky about it, and that affected the schedule and my hours that I could give because you might give them hours and they might be okay with it, but
Mm-hmm.
also it depends if they can put those many people for that shift. So you may or may
True.
not end up getting those hours. And as an international student, like you can work up to 24 hours in a week,
Mm-hmm.
and you literally need those 24 hours to survive and have a life.
Yeah, but also it's I think while we're talking about 24 hours and how the laws function here in Canada, worth noting that your on-campus job does not contribute towards these 24 hours. So if
Yep.
you're working on campus, it's that plus an additional 24 hours that you can put in. So if you are in a
Mm-hmm.
situation where you need to really earn yourself enough money to fund yourself, you do have that option of looking for an on-campus job as well as off-campus job, but
Yeah.
it's definitely going to be quite a hassle to figure that around your classes. So it's really important to consider how many classes you're actually taking each semester if you want to work a really hectic work schedule for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, right? Like I knew people who were doing that because in the second semester there are lesser classes, or when you're doing the second year course, because I did a
Mm-hmm.
postgrad diploma, so we could do
Yeah.
a 1+1, and you drop certain subjects in the next course because you've done them earlier. You get credits for that. And
Right.
a lot of people then were able to balance that off campus and on campus, because for off campus weekends are crucial, but for on campus they only ask you to work during those college hours that you're there. So Monday to Friday, probably like till your classes are there, 3 p.m., 5 p.m. So then you can still do like things in the evening, and all these part-time jobs, they still give you offs. Like
Mm-hmm.
the off campus ones, you'll have an off like a day or two in a week.
Yeah.
So if you really need to fund yourself, like Varun said, like there are possibilities to balance that out, uh, depending on how many hours you're doing or
Yep.
getting in the end. And that was very important for me. Didn't
Hmm.
realize it the first semester. Was naive enough to be like, no, no, I'm here to study, so I'm gonna concentrate on my subjects.
Hmm.
But then come next semester, had to like rejig stuff where I could give more availability to get more hours.
And even the on-campus jobs, though, I feel like, as you said, most jobs will be within your university working hours of sorts. But at least for
Mm-hmm.
me, I had a job that gave me more flexibility than I could imagine, because mine was more of a social media job. It was like video editing, video filming. So while I was filming, particularly during college hours, I had the flexibility to edit on any given day just to make sure that I was filling in those 15 to 20 hours that I had committed for. So that was a big plus for me. It really helped me kind of work around my study schedule, my assignment schedule, not having the pressure of
Mm-hmm.
fixed hours that were dedicated to
Yeah.
work towards a certain task. I could just build my own schedule, and jobs like that are rare to find. But if you
Yeah.
find them, it's basically a jackpot for you.
Yeah. Stick with it till you can, because
Yeah.
they offer you a lot of flexibility, and flexibility is next to money, I want to say, because again, time is money and flexibility is time, so you get the drift.
Yeah. Sakshi, I think we should tell our podcast viewers and listeners a little more about the off-campus situation. I feel like you have more experience and knowledge in it. I did it more as a extra summer job that I worked at Walmart out
Mm-hmm.
here, but I feel like you have understood a little more of how that market functions.
Yeah, because I feel like I also went around looking for a lot more part-time jobs. My
Mm.
friends, half of them were on campus, off campus, mix of it. And then more recently, I saw a post by one of the immigration consultants saying, "Here are the jobs that international students can do off campus." So I was like, "Okay, yeah,
Ah.
this checks out. This is what we were going to talk about." So
Mm-hmm.
this is just verifying what we're speaking. So some things that you can do is retail associate. I was a retail associate, and most retail jobs will pay you minimum wage unless
Mm-hmm.
there's a commission involved. It depends from store to store, from brand to brand, depending on the sales you've made. They can
Mm-hmm.
give you commission. The store that I was working at, the brand that I was working for, they used to have commission back in the day. And all
Mm.
us associates used to talk about it like, oh, if they only had commission now, I would be super rich, because
Ah.
it was easy to sell things during the season. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing, seasonal associates versus regular associates. Now, we touched on this a little bit in the
Last episode.
previous episode, but international students who come in the fall intake most likely get hired as seasonal associates, because the seasonality is there. Thanksgiving, Christmas, those are busy periods
Yep.
for retail stores, and they need more people. But then as soon as the season is over, there are too many people, they will get rid of you. And that's why they have that seasonal contract for 2-3 months, and basis your performance they may decide to keep you or not. I was
Mm-hmm.
lucky enough to be kept on, but most of the hiring that happens during that time is seasonal unless specified that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a similar seasonal hiring going on right now in spring, and that is for restaurants and retail stores.
Mm-hmm.
So this happens 2 times in a year. For restaurants, though, it's a little different, because here in Ontario, at least, you need to have this food safety certification if you're in the kitchen
Uh,
working as a cook. And then if you're working as a server or a barista or a bartender, then you need to have this other certification called a smart serve.
right. Yeah. Smart sir.
Yeah, so you need to have the smart serve for if you're working in a restaurant and everything. And the perk about working in restaurants, cafes, or bartending and in the kitchen even, is that you get tips. And tipping is big part of
Big tips.
Western culture here. Yes, big tips. And not just for people who are in front of the house, but you get tips as back of the house when you're cooking as a chef as well. uh, so yes, it is more physical, more labor intensive, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, uh, those tips are way more than what you get paid as a minimum wage, so it really puts you over the edge.
And talking about tips, now that we bring that up, I feel like one important factor, and I'm not sure if this is the same in Ontario or not, it's only something that I recently figured out in Quebec, is that unfortunately, not all service establishments work on a tip system.
Oh yes.
There are a lot of times where tips exist on the system, and you as a customer can choose to give tips, but these tips are not
Mm-hmm.
going to the employees. They're going directly
No.
to the owners, which is not a
Yeah.
great system to have. So if you're looking for part-time jobs, make sure to have this as a question in your mind to check with your employer before you get in
Mm-hmm.
there, because you don't want to get caught up in a situation wherein you're making minimum wage to begin with and then not even receive those benefits that you would in a service job. So
Yeah. And
that's a little bit of a tricky situation, but it's important to kind of figure your way around.
definitely. And I have two things to highlight here from a customer perspective and from the serving side perspective. Because before I joined this retail job, I was working as a hostess in one of the restaurants for less than a month.
Hmm.
And we were supposed to get tips, and how it was, the hostess would get the lowest
Least
percentage,
tip.
and then the
Mhm.
servers, correct. And then the servers, the cooks, and everything. So after getting to know the team over like a couple of weeks and everything, they actually said that they felt that the owner wasn't distributing all the tips, like he was keeping some for himself, which
Mhm.
again, the tips, everything is for people who are on the floor or back
Yep.
of the house working, not for
Mhm.
the owner to just keep.
Yep.
And then in another incident, um, there was a place where a friend said that, okay, yeah, the server said that, don't give the tip
Yeah,
because they don't
exactly.
get these tips.
Exactly what even I've faced here in Montreal. There are
So
certain Indian restaurants that we've walked into, and when
correct.
we've asked if we like if we just casually asked, being like, "Hey, about the
Do
tip,"
you
and
get the tips?
yeah, and they
Yeah.
straight up tell us, "Hey, don't put a tip. We're
Don't
not
tip.
getting any of
Yeah,
this."
exactly. So guys, if you go to Indian restaurants, some Asian restaurants too actually,
Probably.
uh, basically where they take cash only or something like that, like just
Yeah,
clarify
exactly that.
if they actually get the tips or not, because you might be thinking, oh yeah, this tip is going to the server, but it's
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
So just a heads up over there. And there are other industries too, like the cannabis industry, that also requires you to have special certification, which is called a can sell here in Ontario. I don't know if it's called that across Canada,
They got
but
creative with the
again,
name there.
people get confused because if you don't say it right, can sell, it can sound like cancer. So be careful about that.
Ah.
Yeah, but basically that also pays you more than minimum wage because it requires you to have that special certification. And it's interesting to learn about all these different like strains and variants in the cannabis industry. And for some people, it's even cool because, oh wow, I'm working in a cannabis shop,
Mhm.
which is not legal in a lot of places in a lot of countries.
But in a country
So
like
that's
Canada,
another thing.
everything is kind of legal over here, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's another thing that you can explore. And then obviously there are other jobs like working at your local library. Like we have the
Mhm.
city library, so you can work in libraries too if you're a person who doesn't like socializing, because all
Mhm.
these other jobs, they require you to speak to people.
Yep, absolutely. Especially if you get into something like bartending or service at a restaurant, there's a
Hmm.
lot of customer interaction. So if that's not something you're ready for, gotta reconsider it a little bit.
Trust me, that line is still in my head. It's been like about a year or more. I haven't been in that part-time job in retail, but those lines, the certain things and terms that we used, it's still there. You
Wait,
don't
what
forget it
line?
that easy. Well, I worked at Victoria's Secret.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that you had to ask a customer is, have you been measured recently?
Ah,
Yeah, or what are you looking for, which is standard across any
mm,
retail store, because whenever a
got it.
customer walks in, you want to help them in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, there's just certain things and terms that are stuck in my head. I feel like sometimes when I was working that part-time job, in my dreams too, I was in the store working.
I think another way to really get part-time jobs pretty easily, and I think one that I had to figure for myself, is when I was looking for like just some extra money for through summer, because there's no classes around that time of the year. So it's like bonus time, just like make as much money as you can to enjoy the rest of the year. So I think when I
And
wanted
no hour limitation, like when you're on semester
that,
breaks,
that as well.
uh when you have like reading week, when you have semester breaks like summer and everything, as an international student, you don't have that hour cap.
Yeah, for sure. I think me through summer, because I was still continuing my university part-time gig as well as working off campus. I think I was putting in roughly almost say, close to like 45 to 50 hours a week
Mm-hmm.
because it could make me that extra money. And through summers,
Yeah.
jobs just generally pay well. So for things like that, sometimes it helps to just use a referral, much like any other job that you would.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a full-time job, it's always important to see if you can just get a referral. It's always going to be your easy way. And so if you have a friend out there, or if you just know somebody a little bit, even as an acquaintance, you kind of have to just shed your inhibitions of asking someone for a
Mm-hmm.
referral. It's completely fine to just be like, hey, you're working at a certain place. Can I
Yeah.
just like get a referral through you? Can I speak to your manager? How can we work something out? And people are often more helpful than you would think. So
Mm-hmm.
a referral, again, cannot reinstate this more. Some people may call it nepotism of some sorts. It's not really that, but it's always going to help you get these extra jobs out there that otherwise you might have to hustle a little harder for if you don't.
Yeah, and then the other way is job fairs.
Mm-hmm.
Referrals obviously matter, but with these job fairs, it's an open door. It's open door policy. You don't have to submit and wait for them to come back to you. You just walk in and you do your interview right there, and then
Mm-hmm.
you get the answer hopefully in a day or so. Especially for part-time jobs. So I've seen a couple of job fairs, especially in big malls where all these retail stores are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of days. Twice a year. One is now spring summer, and the other one is when I mentioned later on around before Thanksgiving, because they also have to train you to
Right.
handle those busy periods. So they will hire some weeks, months in advance to be able to justify that.
Mm-hmm.
So job fairs at the mall, they announce it. So when you follow them on social media, this kind of information exists there, because it's not possible to be going to the mall every day. Or
Absolutely.
yes, if you're applying for jobs, you'll do that,
Mm-hmm.
but otherwise you just can't be in the mall every day if it's far from you. So having social media, they put it out there, and keeping an eye out is a great way. Again, if referrals is something, because when you're
Mm-hmm.
coming new to the country, you don't know a lot of people as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you really ask for a referral?
For sure.
So in that case, then these job fairs come handy.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things about even like getting a part-time job that differ from province to province. So I think one thing to keep in mind, especially if you're coming to a province like Quebec, where I am right now, any of these service jobs or customer front jobs are going to require you to know French almost in
Mm-hmm.
every case. So if you are looking to move to this province, while I did not put in the effort of learning as much French as I should have, I would highly recommend anyone who's coming into Quebec to kind of take few months before coming in here to just learn the language. Not only will it help them with their part-time jobs, it'll eventually help you even land the job or any other kind of opportunities in this province. And even in the future purpose, if you're looking at someone who wants to come in just for immigration, with this language as an advantage, there are a lot of things that can sort out for you. So put in a few
Yeah.
extra hours, put in a few extra months that you do before you come to this country. If you learn the language, you're at a big advantage. And in a province like Quebec, in fact, it is almost a mandate for them by law, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a bill that had been passed, I think, 3 years ago. I think it's Bill 96 is what it was called. But according to that bill, you need to kind of as an employer, have about a certain percentage of your staff that speaks French. And
French speaking,
yeah,
yeah.
and if they don't employ that many people who speak the language, and if there's ever random checks that are done on them, they're heavily fined for it. Some companies will kind of
Mm-hmm.
circumvent their ways to get away with these fines, but most companies want to stick to the law and will always look for people who speak French. So if you don't speak the language, you're at a personal disadvantage. You're missing out.
And it's not just for Quebec, like Varun mentioned. I feel like as a newcomer, as an international student, uh, do your best to learn French before coming here, because it is super advantageous when it comes to from an immigration standpoint as well, not just
Hmm.
being in Quebec as a
Exactly.
province. And like y'all can research more on that if y'all like, if y'all want to know more. But in the end, learning a language is never really a losing game or a losing battle. It's a
Yeah,
skill you're learning. It's another
absolutely.
language, so you got nothing to lose basically.
Yeah, and this has a big, and why we're even bringing it up is because it has a big role to play with the job situation in Canada. So make sure you do
Oh
it.
yes.
If you do, it can really help you as a student as well.
Another thing comes to mind actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, not just in Quebec as a part time job, but for a full time job, if you know French, if you can speak, you're bilingual, like you know English and French, you actually get paid more than your English speaking counterparts.
That is
And
true.
I know this for a fact because I know friends who worked in different places, and once they knew how to speak the language, they automatically got a bump. And
Uh,
your chances of getting hired also
or
increase.
significantly increase for sure.
Yeah, so it's not just a part-time job, not just immigration, but just in general, knowing a language like French helps a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think another thing that you can keep in mind for if you're looking for a part-time job is that there are certain employers that not only employ you and pay you, which is the basic that they're meant to do, but they even go above and beyond to kind of help with things like your insurance in case your university doesn't provide it, and also helps you with educational aid. I think Sakshi, you have some more information about that, right?
Yeah, so I didn't know about this, but a friend of mine who was already here from before, she said that her employer, her part-time employer,
Mm-hmm.
was actually helping her with her student fee, like the course fee. And
Mm-hmm.
how that works is that you need to be working with them for a minimum 1 year, I think, and each employer can be different.
Mm-hmm.
But these are some big companies, like Starbucks, McDonald's, Chipotle,
We're not sponsored
and
by
a
any of
lot.
them.
I'm just sharing information. But yeah, I wouldn't mind some free food.
Yeah, why not?
So there are more, I'm sure. But I was interviewing for Starbucks, and these were one of the benefits that they had highlighted, that
Mm-hmm.
you can apply for these student grants or student scholarships once you work with them for like a minimum time period. You're doing a certain number of hours per
Yep.
week. So when it comes to part-time jobs, if financial aid is something that you're looking for, you've applied for scholarships on your with your college or university, but you feel you're unsure and you want to look at sources outside, like these employers, they exist, so they pay you like Varun mentioned, and then
Yep.
they also support you with your education and with the fee, so it doesn't feel like a burden. And if you need that support, then I would say research up those companies, and then you can laser focus your efforts
Mm-hmm.
into just those jobs and what they're offering.
And searching for these should not be too difficult even, because it's just a matter of knowing that these exist. If you just
Mm-hmm.
simply, I feel like, put a Google search in there to look for these jobs, you can find them super easily, because these companies, in fact, go above and beyond to promote themselves with these factors as well. Like, I've
Yeah.
personally seen ads of McDonald's that are encouraging students to come join them because they help with educational aid. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really not a tough thing to find. It's just a matter of knowing that it exists.
Similarly, having your eyes, ears open when you're traveling, because a lot of these places they will put out help wanted signs, or I know for a fact Starbucks, Chipotle, will say, "Oh, we hire and we support you with your education." So you'll see them everywhere. Like this is the season right now;
Mm-hmm.
everyone's hiring.
Yep.
So if you're looking for part-time jobs or a summer job, great time to be looking around, talking to people. Just enter a random cafe and ask them, "Are you hiring?" And they'll probably say, "Yeah, we're hiring."
And if you're a student who is looking to come into Canada this fall, I feel like it's never, as we mentioned earlier, this episode, it's never too early to start looking. So if you're looking for campus jobs, begin your process right away. We're already kind of in May right now, in the middle of May. Coming in for September is not too early at all. If anything, you might be getting a little late to start applying for those jobs. So go on there, look at whatever university or college portal you're on, and just start applying for whatever you feel like is relevant for you.
Definitely. And with that note, if y'all have any questions on any of these part time jobs or want to connect with us, understand how it all works, feel free to DM us, drop
Mm-hmm.
us a comment, and we can answer all those questions.
And again, as usual, we should be doing this in the beginning and end of every video, but here's me reminding you again, don't forget to like, share, and especially subscribe to our channel right now. We again mentioned this previously, but we know that a lot of you watching our videos are not yet subscribed. And if you subscribe, it just keeps us more motivated. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button right
Not Varun calling y'all out.
now.
But we'll see y'all next week, and thank you for listening and watching.
Bye. See you.
Bye.